What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Classroom Yaps. And today I want to talk about if the sneaker game is dead. Now, I'm somebody that has been a sneakerhead for over 20 years now. Even when I was a kid, I was always interested in how sneakers looked, getting the best pair of sneakers that I could possibly get, begging my parents for that. And when I started making a little bit of money, it was something that I definitely went as far as I could with the money I was making. And it took a long time for sneakers to really become readily available in the town that I live. Typically, in the past, I had to travel to one of the bigger malls a few towns over and also try to look for sneakers online. It wasn't until maybe about 2012 when I could start actually attaining some of the more popular models, Air Jordan 1s, Air Tech Challenge, and just overall sneakers that I was always interested in without having to wait for them to hit an outlet mall. Now, around 2017, 2018 is when we started seeing a lot of resellers take advantage of the fact that they were rare. We started seeing a lot of resellers coming up as, botting the systems and getting as many pairs as they could to resell back to the public. I think a little after the pandemic, maybe around 2021, 2022, is when we started to see that sort of resale model hit critical mass, or at least start to fall down, is what I'm trying to say. And because so many people had invested, you know, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars into buying tons of pairs, buying Yeezys, buying Nikes, buying pairs that people really wanted, I think that's where we started to see and hear that being a sneakerhead was starting to be on a downfall. And I somewhat agree, but I also mostly disagree because, for the most part, if you are a true sneakerhead, the big problem with the resale market was always that you couldn't get the pair that you actually wanted. And we're seeing that with Pokemon, we're seeing that with trading cards in general, and just pretty much anything that could be resold at double or more of the price. That's what we are having a problem with in just today's markets, right? And when it comes to sneakers, I think sneakers are just a good indicator of what's to come for a lot of like trading cards, a lot of things that are very popular and meant to be resold. Um, that's what we're going to see in the future with those things. Because when it comes to sneakers, we are already seeing that the people that want the shoes are starting to get the shoes at close to retail prices. This morning, I purchased a pair of AirTech Challenge, the Back to the Future colorway. And that colorway to me means a lot. It means a lot because I've been a huge fan of Back to the Future since I was like 3 years old. So that's like 35 years already. It's one of the first movies I watched with my dad. And like any fan of the film, I was somebody that as soon as I saw the Air Mags, I thought they were the coolest shoes in the world. When I started making money and thought, oh my God, can I like buy a pair of Air Mags? And you realize like, oh, it's a fictional shoe aside from when they made their special pairs. Um, it creates that mythos in your head of like, wow, this is a shoe that I'll never be able to have. And it's like, that's why it's the ultimate grail for a lot of people, because it's something that we can never really have. But when it comes to other sneakers, such as the AirTech Challenge in just that Air Mag colorway, um, it's really special and important to me to buy that shoe. Now, admittedly, it's a little overpriced. Retail is at $180, and it's something that me as an older sneakerhead, right? I'm about to turn 38 soon. It's something that me as an older sneakerhead looks at and says, you know what? I haven't really spent copious amounts of dollars on sneakers this year. Let me buy this pair for myself. And I think a lot of sneakerheads have hit that point. They are buying the pairs that they absolutely want. Because when we started seeing people taking advantage of botting the system, I think a lot of sneakerheads went a different direction and said, you know what? F this, I'm not going to partake or participate in this system that's set up for us to fail as sneakerheads. There were plenty of sneakers that I absolutely wanted. I used to wait online for Yeezys. I used to wait online for Nikes and just strike out at 7 in the morning. And not only just was it bad for my energy, right? Just waiting at 7 o'clock, refreshing Nike on like two computers and a phone and my wife's phone. It's just a really terrible way to start the day. And at least for myself, I became really tired of that. I became really tired of the fact that, again, I just don't want to start my day off by taking an L this early in the morning. So I pulled back, and I think a lot of sneakerheads pull back. And I think that's why when people in, as sneakerheads see the price of Nike stock, which this is not a Nike stock video, but I think they do. The idea does correlate. When people see the price of Nike stock, they tend to think, okay, well, Nikes and sneakers are not doing that well. Therefore, Nike stock is where it should be, or it should be even lower, which I don't 100% agree on. I think Nike as a brand is going to be a lot like McDonald's, or it's going to be a lot like Coca-Cola, where it just never goes away. They're always going to have some market share. Now, yes, I absolutely believe they have lost a lot of market share in terms of aesthetics, in terms of appeal to companies like New Balance, companies like Hoka, where it used to be they were losing out to Adidas, right? And Adidas had that same problem of just like not letting the people that want the shoes get the shoes. But I think those are two completely different things. Nike shoes and Nike sneakers for sneaker culture are two completely different things. When I started teaching 10 years ago, and this is always an indicator for me what kids are doing and what kids will do in the future, I can say that sneaker culture is almost non existent. It used to be when I started teaching in the classroom, I saw students coming in with sneakers that were, on kids' sizes of stuff that I wanted, right? LeBron's, um, Air Jordan 1s. And the kids knew what they were. Kids knew what Yeezys were. Kids knew what fake Yeezys were, but would still wear them. And when Crocs came around, in a big way, because Crocs had been around for a long time. But when Crocs became really popular, Crocs were like a great equalizer for people that didn't have, or for kids and families that didn't have a ton of money, because everybody post pandemic was wearing Crocs. And because everybody was wearing Crocs, you could be on the same level as a family or another kid that maybe their family had a little bit more money than you. And these are just theories, right? These are just things that I've seen. But when compared to today, where all of my class are wearing shoes for the sake of wearing shoes, there is almost zero hype behind any of the shoes that they purchase. There is almost no appeal for them to go and buy the best pair of LeBrons, the best pair of Air Jordan 1s, the best pair of Adidas shoes. And I think that popularity fell when kids, okay, I'm 10 years old and I see Ninja on Fortnite come out with an Adidas collab. Why can't I get that collab? They lose interest. And ultimately, when it comes to something like even Pokemon, kids are going to lose interest faster than adults, because they realize that they cannot get the cards that they want, right? I saw some of my students get into Pokemon last school year, and ultimately it was not something that was able to be widespread because they just could not get the cards. And if the kids can't get it, the appeal is going to start dying. And ultimately, when it comes to sneakers, that appeal is gone. That appeal is gone for everything up from Gen Alpha to the latter part of Gen Z. I don't think there is that much of an enticing factor for them to go and buy the sneakers that they want. there's just no reason for it. Um, it doesn't get them anywhere in life. A lot of Gen Z are struggling to find jobs that would even be able to afford on $180 pair of shoes, uh, let alone shoes that they might need for work, let alone, Crocs that they might want to wear around the house. They have to make a decision. I'm either buying $180 worth of shoes or I'm going to buy three pairs of shoes for that price. And I think Gen Z is finding that out. And I think that's ultimately why they're so pissed, which is a bigger subject. But when it comes to sneakers, again, it's more so that the appeal and the culture is dead for younger generations, for resellers, but it's always going to be sort of a niche thing. And maybe something more along the lines of like vinyl, where yes, people do collect vinyl. There is a small market to be profitable for small companies, but in mass, where people are, lining up to buy AirTech challenges or lining up to buy Air Jordans or lining up to buy Adidas shoes, that is gone. Like, absolutely gone. The people that want it are going to be able to get it, which is a great thing, but it being a huge part of the culture, I think, is just ultimately dead. But that's all about that's sorry, I got a little tongue tied there. That's about all I have to say about sneakers today. I do have a lot more ideas in terms of sneaker culture. This is not a sneaker channel. This is a channel of where I want to just share ideas and share things that I have come across and learned. So if you've made it this far into my video, I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.